Be right there.
Oh, it says it's connecting again. Well,
oh, he's putting you on our big screen.
So I can see what she sees.
I don't see us being on at all now at this point.
Yeah.
It says it's now streaming.
It's live.
It's live.
Okay, we're live. This is a really, okay, hello everybody. This is a really unusual, I'm not getting to see the usual thing here where I would see comments and things like this. So yeah, I don't know how this is gonna go, but let's trust the process. And maybe I'll be able to track on my phone any questions. Oh, here we go. I can see it live myself. Oh, this is so weird. Okay. So we are with Michael and Laurie.
Hello.
Hello. What a pleasure to have you guys with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. You know, you guys are in the community. Thank you for joining the community. It's, you know, something that I feel is very close to my heart. And I think a lot of people could use a lot of support around relationships, sexuality, intimacy in general, let alone, you know, during the coronavirus stuff, right? So can you tell me just a little bit about your guys' background? What brought you into this work?
Well, I'll start. I always knew that sex was more than this, in and out friction, but I didn't know how to find out anything more about it. When I was younger and I was experimenting with sex, like I couldn't get anybody to talk about anything. No one would talk about it. It just was like, I'd say to somebody, oh, there's so much more to this. Let's get locked up in a, like this, like in a situation for a week or two and explore and talk about it. And people I was with thought I was crazy. So, so I started studying Tantra in 1996. And that was when I first found it. And I just, you know, I know that this is, how do I want to say this? That sexuality is the portal for spirituality. It's the portal for growth and development and knowledge and uncovering things that we don't know about ourselves and facing them. And I found that all out, that my suspicions were correct. But I didn't know it was going to be so big. I didn't know this is what I was going to do in my life. Like I just, I kind of fell into it, and I'm really glad that I did. And then, so you started studying around 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 13 years ago. I went through a really messy divorce, and at the end of all of that, after all the trauma and all the stuff, I started thinking about, you know, well, how am I going to, you know, how am I going to find love again, right? And so I went through all the things that, you know, many men go through when they have, you know, that kind of a devastating experience in their lives. And I started looking for, you know, how do I meet women and how do I date and all that kind of stuff. And that took me down the PUA road for a while, pickup artist road. But then I found Tantra. And in that, I started to look into, you know, what is sacred sexuality? How does trauma live in the body? I learned about chakras and all the things. And that came around 10 or 12 years ago. And then I've been practicing ever since. So that's how I got into it. It was kind of a roundabout way, but thankfully I'm here.
Yeah, I'm thankful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell us, like, what is it that you guys are really committed to during this time? You know, has it stayed the same? Has it shifted a little bit? Are you seeing where there's sort of an opening for us to do things a little differently in our relationships?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've noticed is, and Laurie and I say this, that, you know, couples are, you know, I mean, they're pretty much in species, like they're in danger, you know? So, and I think a lot of that has to do with the way that we communicate to each other, with each other, how we interact with each other, and also noticing those things that cause us to kind of spiral downward. And so being able to identify and distinguish those things help us to actually communicate what's real for us. So Laurie and I have this thing that we call fierce communication, like it's fearless. We say all the awesome, wonderful things that we say to each other, and then we also dig in on some of the hard things. And communication is the key to resolving any issue in any relationship, but it's got to be authentic.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I feel you guys on that one. I know, I'm just relating to so much of what you guys are saying, the relationship problems in the past and wanting to discuss, what's going on with sexuality and all these different things. And just nobody, I know for myself, wanting to reach out for help and actually having therapists look more ashamed of whatever I was asking about than my own fear of even asking was. It was quite an interesting process. And then what you're saying about communication is so huge. I mean, I really grew up in a household myself where we weren't really allowed to talk. Like it wasn't, you kind of had to have neutral feelings. And if you were too excited or too sad or too angry or too pretty much anything outside of this little zone, it just wasn't okay. And that made, moving into relationships really difficult because I was constantly mitigating what I was saying, constantly not saying what was really happening. And until I actually was able to move into what you guys are talking about, like that fearless, fierce zone, there really wasn't even the opportunity for the kind of intimacy I really wanted. And I had no idea until I made that change. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's really important. I mean, I said to Michael, when we first met, when we met, and the first time we were ever going to be intimate, we started right from there. I mean, the first night we were together, first of all, he interviewed me on his podcast. So he asked me all the hard questions right there on the air. It was like we were seducing each other while we were doing this podcast, but we were also saying, like, he didn't know who I was, that I was a teacher and I was known in the world for this. And he started asking me the questions while he was interviewing me, and I could see his face going. And then we decided we were going to be intimate, and we did everything that I teach. We did the bubble, and then we did desires, fears, and boundaries, and we spoke our truth to each other. And we actually discovered in the first moment, before we even took our clothes off or anything, we discovered that we wanted the same thing. And we were so vulnerable. I said to him, I want a relationship that's close to home with someone I can really count on, where my soul could get fed, like somebody who can touch me and I can count on. And he looked at me, and then he did desires, fears, and boundaries, and he said, I want that. I want the same thing. And we just looked at each other like, oh, this works.
So juicy. I love it. I love it. So given your guys' robust experience and background, you must have some tips for everybody on how to, create intimacy, work out their relationship stuff during this time of, self-isolation, or perhaps isolation with the person that, you're in relationship with.
So the very first thing, I'm just going to say this because it's who I am. The very first thing is people have got to do emotional release.
Oh,
like if you're at home with your kid, which you are, and other people are at home with their kids, plus they're with each other.
Yeah.
This and everyone is scared because we're facing a situation that we're totally unprepared for. We've never faced anything like this before. Even if you were in the Army and the Marines and you were in Vietnam or you were in Desert Storm or whatever, that's a different kind of tension and stress. This is like, what? I'm quarantined? What? I mean, this is crazy. So the very first thing people have to do is emotional release. Now they can find emotional release. They can find it on my website. They can find it, they can find yoga boxing. They can find energetic emotional release. They can find hand screaming. They can find a lot of stuff at lauriehandlers.com. Certainly, the next few days, Michael and I are going to be posting videos of me doing emotional release, hitting the floor, hitting pillows. There are some YouTube videos that people can find if they feel to do that, but they must keep being present. And the only way to keep being present is to not take those horrible feelings and turn them into, I'm going to talk stupid to you. Like I'm going to be really stupid that I'm going to regret. No, I'd rather not do that because I don't know how long we're going to be locked in.
Yeah.
And,
Well, yeah.
And to Laurie's point, I mean, it's important for you to get that your emotions, my emotions, are my emotions.
Right.
And so when Laurie talks about emotional release, it's not necessarily that I'm trying to sort something out with someone else, and I might not even know what's coming up. So emotional release practice on a regular basis allows you to kind of move that stuff out so that you stay current. You want to be emotionally current, so you're not bringing your past into a conversation, especially if it's a tense one. So you want to make sure that the past is in the past and the moment is the moment. That's
totally
what it does for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, too, for those that maybe don't feel like sometimes they can express their emotions, sometimes we do what I call the emotional vomiting, but sometimes we hold it in too. And then that can lead to a bit of, you know, passive aggressive behaviors, resentment, things like that don't serve a relationship either. So it can be a way to process. I know what you're saying, Laurie. I was thinking about I was like, I've got my kiddo at home. We do emotional release all the time. We could probably do some videos together because she's like, can I help you with your work? But we've got, you can't really see it, but beside me in my office, which is part of my house, we have a big, huge area and we have pillows and cushions and everything set up. And everybody at any point in the day is more than welcome and invited to go do emotional release. And so my kiddo, you know, if she's having some emotions, which, you know, she is right now about sort of being more stuck, you know, inside the house, the school's closing, not really being able to see her friends. She just like goes in her room or comes in here and just has at it. And about 10, 15 minutes later, she comes out, she's just like, and everyone's like, what just happened to your child? But it's so powerful, right?
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Yes, thank you for that suggestion.
And I'll give people a tip. One that's very fun that I like to do a lot. I didn't make it up. It's called Osho's gibberish. And so it's really good to put on great music, like fast music for about 5 minutes, dance, and don't make any sound. Just dance for 5 minutes to a really good song. And then the minute the song is over, with eyes closed or blindfolded, just make sound. Gibberish is not recognizable words. So just do blah, 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 like for another 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then stop and stay in silence for another 2 or 3 minutes. That little alarm that have you do that. But that's a really easy one. It's a fun one, and you can do it with people in your household.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other little nuggets that you guys have?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned something that I think was, it's one of the things that Laurie and I really focus on, and that is resentment.
Mm.
There are, we call it the 3 R's: resentment, resistance, and revenge. And without going into it too much, you can tell when you feel resentment, right? Resentment has an experience that's connected to it. It feels yucky in the tummy, and sometimes you're tight in your shoulders and your neck, and you just kind of feel collapsed. It's like, and it might be just when somebody's talking to you, you know, beloved or you know, a housemate, whoever, and they're talking to you, and all of a sudden you just kind of feel like that. You know, you want to say something, but you just don't, right?
Yeah.
That's like, it feels so gross. And you kind of play it off because you want to be polite, you love this person, you're kind, all the things. But what you need to do is you need to take a moment to get into some emotional release first, and then there's something. Oftentimes there's something you just need to say.
Yeah.
Say it with all the emotion behind it. So do the emotional release first, and here's your pro tip: when you go and you have this conversation with this person, set them down and say, "I feel resentment against you, and here's why," and just top it up, whatever it is. Let them know what's going on, but keep it in a space, in a short space, so it's not like this long, drawn out conversation. Get to the point. What is it that you're venting?
Not the whole list.
Right.
Just one.
One thing.
Yeah.
And then once you talked it up, the other person might say something back to you, and then you're going to have a conversation about it. But the point, the end goal is to actually create together a solution for whatever that is. You know, you don't put the toilet seat down. The toilet paper goes on the outside, not the, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff is easy to get to, but one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, great piece, because yeah, I find, like you're saying, some people will go into, you know, a communication process like this, and then they just start listing out all the things, right? Ooh.
Nobody can hear the list. Like the list is too much, and if you have a list, you've waited too long.
Yeah, well, and it's gonna put your whole nervous system over, right? To be able to hear that, I agree, it is too much. Yes, but lots of people do have lists. You know, I think the reality is that these tools that we're talking about are not tools that most people get early in life. They don't often get them at the beginning of a relationship. And so by the time, I know at least, people come to me for advice, usually there already is a list, you know? So do you have any tips for, you know, tallying down the list if people are, you know, isolated together and they're feeling like they would like to tackle this? Maybe this is an opportunity for them to really do some clearing and healing in their relationship.
So they might have to do emotional release in between each week. Like they could say, okay, let's set aside a day when we're really going to work, we're going to dig up all the stuff. Okay, I'm going to be brave. I'll try to do it. I'll try to face it. I'll look at it, and I might have to do emotional release in between each one.
Yeah, we're just getting a comment, Laurie, that it's a bit hard to hear you. Is there any way you could maybe just repeat what you just said?
Yeah, thank you. Wow, I'm trying to yell. If I made an agreement that I was going to clear everything one day, you know, like take a day and clear everything, I would do emotional release in between each week.
Right. Okay. So you're saying if you were going to do this, I'm just going to sort of repeat after you so it's clear for everyone, and you wanted to like pick a day to do this, then what you would do is maybe say one thing, resolve that, then do emotional release, and then do the next topic. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I might have to do hand screening in between the conversation. So I might have to be talking and then go.
Yeah.
You have to just do emotional release right in the middle of things.
Yeah, so true. What a great thing to bring up, doing emotional release while you're having discussions. Yeah. You know, doing the silent hand scream, doing a hand scream, and you can, you know, do a scream into a pillow, just giving each other permission to actually be raw, be vulnerable, be in your emotions, and allow each person to have their emotions, and to, you know, not really take that personally, right? We all have our own experiences and our own perceptions and our own way of processing things. And it's, you know, a lot less to do with the other person than sometimes it seems like.
Yeah, I would add to that, you know, begin to really to develop the skill of asking for and giving forgiveness. Just ask for forgiveness, like, oh, I'm so sorry I did X, or whatever it was that the person says to you, and then say, will you forgive me?
Yeah, asking for forgiveness.
Asking for forgiveness, and you're okay with apologizing. You don't always need to be right. And maybe you are right. But what's the point of being right? Everybody wants to be fucking right. Right. You want to be right, you want to be right. I mean, fun. So sometimes you can just say, you know what, I feel like I'm not here, but I'm sorry for hurting you. I love you. Please forgive me. Forgive me. And just let that be what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it takes sometimes. It's not letting it go. It's addressing it, dealing with it, knowing where you're at, and then allowing yourself to be graceful.
No.
Yeah. It's really hard to hear you guys. So I'm wondering if I might have to go over some of this and type out some of this for people in the comments.
Oh my God, I'm so frustrated. I wanted that what he said was really important, not to let it go. It's a spiritual bypass. It's
Oh,
I should be bigger than this. I should be okay with the toilet seat. I should be okay with the toilet paper this way or this way. I should be okay with the video synthesis with Laurie and synthesis. No, that's a spiritual bypass. I'm not that evolved. I need to do these practices. And when I do the practices, then they become normalized. And then I'm not afraid of his anger. He's not afraid of my anger. We're not afraid of each other's feelings. Because it's normal in our relationship to do handstands, to do yoga boxing, to
yeah.
do to hit the floor. It's a just like you with your daughter. It's normalized in your family now, and then you kind of there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, normalizing. So you're talking about normalizing emotions, normalizing the process of them, normalizing like actual, like real communication between people where we actually really talk about what's going on, and not doing a spiritual bypass, which is the whole, oh, I'm sort of, I can just let this go, which, Laurie, let me tell you, I did. I spent many years doing that. I studied it a lot of spiritual mentorships, and that's, I was told, just go meditate, just take deep breaths, just let it go. It's just not the truth of the reality. And, it worked for a bit compared to where I was before that, just learning, some more acceptance and, ways of emotionally regulating in certain ways. But so much stuff was not still dealt with. And it showed up in my relationships with myself and others, huge. And so I totally hear what you're saying. And I'm repeating a lot of it so that, in case people can't hear what you said previously, they're kind of getting a little bit of it. So do correct me if I'm wrong. But, that it's okay to normalize working through this stuff. And that as we do, then we can be more present and tuned in and, available for ourselves and others.
Yeah, I would like to say also that, when you let it go, where do you think it goes? Where does it go when you let it go? Right? You actually deal with it. It goes in the bag. It's over your back that you're carrying around in life. And it's heavy and heavy and heavier the more you let it go. It just goes into that bag, if there's a bag. I don't know. But the point is that you don't once you deal with it, right, then it's gone.
It's done. Then it actually is let go, right?
So dealing with it makes the bigger way of doing it, more extraordinary way of handling stuff. And do it often and in the moment if you can. Sometimes it takes setting up or scheduling a conversation. I got a concept I'd like to talk about. And you might say, honey, I can't do it right now. I'm putting out an email. Can you talk to me about it? Schedule it. If that is
Totally.
Our relationship should be as important as our businesses, or more important. So the way I do that is, if you're doing this, sometimes you'll need to schedule it.
Yes, it's true. Sometimes you don't need to schedule these tougher conversations. Sometimes it's great to I schedule them. I mean, even with my daughter, that's something that we do in our household too. It's like, Mom, I want to talk to you about this. It's like, okay, hold on. Mom's, finishing up, like you're talking like some kind of work thing or something. I'm just doing 5 minutes here, and then I can give you my full time and attention. If I try and actually have that conversation with her while I'm feeling just, it's not going to work. I'm not able to be fully present. I'm not, scheduling is a great tip for everybody, because sometimes it's not the right time. And if we try and push conversations, I think in times where both people aren't in consent about it, it can kind of blow up.
Consent. Don't leave home without it.
Consent, don't leave home without it?
Actually, well, there's a better one. It's consent, don't have sex without it.
Consent, don't have sex without it. Also good. Consent in all areas of life, right?
So, and since we're talking about consent, I'm wondering if it's okay if we talk a little bit about sex and sensuality.
Well, we probably could, but I am having a really tough time hearing you. So I'm wondering if maybe what we should do is schedule another time to chat with you guys when you have Mike with you so that we can hear you.
Okay.
Well, or we can continue. I could just keep repeating what you say.
maybe we can schedule another conversation where we could actually flesh it out a little better.
Well, I think it'd be really nice for people to be able to hear you. I'm getting a few messages that people like are not able to hear you, and it makes sense because I'm almost not able to hear you at this point either. And I know that you guys have really amazing information to share with us, and lots of it. And so, yeah, if you're, down for another consensual conversation, we could definitely schedule that.
Yeah, we are. We are. Okay, so we'll say number 2.
Okay. Mwah, much love to you both. Thank you so much.